Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. You know, we love to break down big ideas into stuff you can actually use. And today, we're tackling a big one, James Clear's game-changing book, Atomic Habits. We're going to get into how these tiny changes can lead to, well, some pretty incredible results.
So let's start with a story. It's about British cycling. For pretty much 100 years, they were just okay. Kind of mediocre, you know? It got so bad that one of the biggest bike makers in Europe flat out refused to sell them bikes. Seriously. They were worried it would make their brand look bad if other pro cyclists saw the Brits riding their gear. Ouch.
So the question is, how do you go from being a total afterthought, to completely dominating the sport? I'm talking Olympics, Tour de France, the whole shebang. Well, the answer comes down to this really radical but super simple idea.
Okay, so this is where it gets good. It all kicks off in 2003. They hire a new coach, a guy named Dave Brailsford, and he comes in with this new philosophy, one he's totally committed to. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains.
The aggregation of marginal gains. Sounds complicated, but it's actually dead simple. Brailsford's whole belief was this: if you could just break down everything that goes into riding a bike, everything, and then improve each little piece by just 1%, then all those little gains would add up to something huge, a massive jump in performance.
And when I say they looked at everything, I mean everything. It wasn't just the obvious stuff, like redesigning bike seats for more comfort or rubbing alcohol on the tires for better grip. No, they went way deeper. They were testing different massage gels to see which one helped muscles recover faster. They even hired a surgeon, to teach the cyclist how to wash their hands properly so they wouldn't get sick as often. They figured out the perfect pillow and mattress for each rider to get the best possible night's sleep. They even painted the inside of the team truck white just so they could spot tiny bits of dust that might mess with the finely tuned bikes. It's wild, right? Every single detail was on the table.
But here's the thing. The book makes it really clear that this whole 1% approach, it's not just about tweaking your actions. For these changes to actually stick, they've got to be connected to something way deeper, and that's your identity.
And this is really the core of the whole book. True behavior change is identity change. The point isn't just to do something different, it's to become someone different. The biggest shift you can make is when you stop focusing so much on the outcome, what you want to achieve, and you start focusing on the person you want to become.
Let me put it this way. Think about the difference between an outcome-based goal and an identity-based one. An outcome goal is like, I want to run a marathon. There's a finish line, you do it, and it's done. But an identity-based goal is, I want to become a runner. See the difference? One is about an event, the other is about embodying a new way of being. It's a small change in words, but it changes your whole mindset.
There's this great story in the book about a guy named Brian Clark. He chewed his nails his entire life, a lifelong habit. So he tries something new. He gets his first ever professional manicure. And it worked. Not because he spent money on it, but because for the first time his nails looked, nice. He was actually proud of them. And that pride created a new identity for him. He was now someone who takes care of his nails. And just like that, the old habit of chewing them just became unthinkable. He never did it again.
All right, so let's get practical. How do we actually build these identity-based habits? The book gives us 4 laws, a really clear framework. And the very first law is all about just making it obvious.
There's this great quote from Carl Jung that really nails it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about it. How many of our habits just run on autopilot, right? You check your phone, you grab a snack, you don't even think about it. So the very first step is just to become aware, to just notice what you're doing without any judgment.
So, to make a new habit obvious, you need a plan, a really clear one. And the book gives us this super simple formula for it. It's called an implementation intention. You just fill in the blanks. I will behavior, at time, in place. So instead of a vague goal like, I'll meditate more, it becomes, I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. See how that instantly takes it from a fuzzy idea to a concrete action plan?
And this isn't just theory. The data totally backs it up. There was this one study about exercise. You had a few groups. The group that just wrote down that one simple sentence, they had a 91% success rate in actually exercising. That's more than double the other groups. And here's the crazy part. It wasn't because they were more motivated. They weren't. They just had more clarity. That's the power of making it obvious.
Okay, let's keep building. Moving on to the next 2 laws. These are all about hacking our own human nature to work for us, not against us. Law number 2 is make it attractive. Look, we're social animals. We can't help it. We want to fit in, to be liked, to be part of the tribe. There was this incredible study that ran for 32 years, and it found that a person's chances of becoming obese shot up by 57% if they had a close friend who became obese. The habits of the people around us are just incredibly powerful and attractive.
And that brings us to law number 3. Make it easy. Our brains are basically lazy. They're wired to conserve energy whenever possible, so we naturally drift toward the path of least resistance. The less friction, the less effort a habit takes, the more likely we are to actually do it. And this is why setting up your environment is such a game changer.
These little tweaks to your environment, they make a massive difference. You want to exercise more? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Bam! One less thing to think about. You want to draw more? Put your pencils and sketchbook right there on your desk, staring at you. You want to eat healthier? Chop up your veggies or prep your breakfast the night before. You're making the good choice the easy choice. It's almost effortless. And that brings us to the 4th and final law, which is all about closing the loop. This is the part that tells your brain, hey, that was good, let's do that again. It's absolutely critical.
Here it is, the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. Simple as that. Our brains didn't evolve for delayed gratification. They want rewards now. Think about it. The consequences of bad habits, smoking, eating junk food, they're way off in the future. But the reward, that's right now. So to build good habits, we have to flip that. We have to find a way to make them feel good, to feel satisfying right in the moment.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. Check out this simple but brilliant strategy. There was this stockbroker whose job was to make 120 cold calls a day. Tough, right? So what did he do? He got 2 jars. He started the day with 120 paper clips in one jar. And after every single call, he'd just move one paper clip over to the empty jar. That little visual cue, that sign of progress, it gave him a tiny, immediate hit of satisfaction that made the whole grind feel rewarded. Okay, so all of this leads to what might be the most powerful and maybe the most surprising idea in the whole book. It's about what we call self-control, and it's probably not what you think it is. Let's go back in time to the Vietnam War. An incredible 20% of U.S. soldiers in Vietnam became addicted to heroin. 20%. Now, researchers followed these soldiers when they came home, and they expected the worst. I mean, typical rehab programs have a 90% relapse rate, but what they found just stunned them. 9 out of 10 of the addicted soldiers just quit, almost overnight, by themselves. So what on earth happened?
The answer is just so profound. When the soldiers came home, they were in a totally different environment. All the triggers, all the stress, all the cues associated with the drug were gone. Their addiction wasn't some deep moral failing. It was the response to their insane environment. And this leads to the big idea. So-called disciplined people, the ones with the best self-control, they aren't heroes with superhuman willpower. They're just better at designing their lives so they don't need heroic willpower. They avoid temptation in the first place.
And that really leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. When you find yourself struggling to change, is the problem really you? Is it your lack of willpower? Or could it be the room you're in? Because if you change your surroundings, you might just find that changing yourself becomes almost effortless.